Hello everybody, this is Blitzing Def, and today I'm going to be doing my first ever video review of a video game. So very quickly, um, this review is for my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube under Def Angel 2001. We have the full Emily is Away 3 playthrough where we've played through and got all of the main endings. And so my stats in this game, I'll throw them up on the screen here. I've played a total of 19 hours of Emily's Away 3. I have all the main endings unlocked, and I think this is I want to make this kind of a comprehensive review, but in order to do that, we will have to discuss some spoilers. So if that happens, I'm going to throw up the spoiler tag here on the screen so that you know that there will be spoilers in the game in case you have not managed to play through the game. That being said, I will absolutely try to avoid spoilers if I can. So I think there were a total of two times where I discussed spoilers because I think it is important to discuss certain aspects of the game. If you want a comprehensive review, then I think we need to talk about those things. And for people that don't really care about being spoiled, then they can listen to it. Otherwise, you can just kind of skip through it using this visual aid to kind of guide you on how far you need to skip ahead. But even when I do discuss the spoilers, I will try to not spoil as much. I'll try to spoil as to the bare minimum that I can, so that there is still some surprise to the game. So going into Emily is Away 3, I was a huge fan of Emily is Away 2 as well, to give you an idea of how excited I was for this game. And I actually followed the development of this game for quite some time. I actually drafted it in my fantasy league last year. And, this was probably back in, because Emily is Away 3 was supposed to be released last August. I think I had drafted it probably in March of 2020, right when the quarantine started here in America. But yeah, so I've been following. I was very bummed out when it was delayed because I had actually put I put some chips on this game, but it didn't pan out. So I was very happy that it did come out. So just to give you an idea of how I felt about this game coming in, I was pretty hyped about the game. So let's start with a summary of the game. What is Emily's Away 3? So Emily's Away 3 is basically it's a Facebook simulator that takes place in the late two you know the in the late 2000s, and that might not be the right way to say it, but like before 2010, in the you know at the turn at the end of the first decade of the 2000s, and you can navigate Facebook just like it's a website, and you talk to the characters in the game, and they all have profiles. They have links you can click on, and I don't think they had likes on Facebook yet. And I'm not sure if they did back in 2000, around 2008. But the Facebook that you see is has been very faithfully recreated around back when it was around 2008 2009. So you'll definitely see that format there. And this is also pretty important too. You do not need to have played the previous games. Emily is Away 1 is free if you want to check that out. Emily is Away 2 is $5, and I believe Emily is Away 3 is $10. But you do not need to play the previous games in order to enjoy Emily is Away 3. It's a completely standalone game. With the relationship between 1, 2, and 3 the best way to describe it is that each game kind of takes place in its own parallel world, parallel universe. I think that's probably the best way to describe it because the character names are mostly the same, but they are all different in each game. They're all their own individual characters. So this is not a direct sequel. It's more of like a parallel universe. So first we need to. So who do you get to talk to in this game? So there are four characters in four main characters that come up in the game. So the first one is Emily, and I have her icon right here. So Emily is she's kind of like your classic nerdy straight edge girl. So she likes video games, she likes books, but she's very kind of like the girl next door. I guess that's probably the best way to do it. She doesn't drink, listens to her parents, and she's a good girl basically. And then our second character is Evelyn, and Evelyn is your punk rebel type of girl. She likes sneaking out. She likes drinking. She's also an artsy type. She likes art as well. And at the beginning of the game, her hair is purple. Hence, that's why her avatar here is purple. But her hair is purple, so that kind of gives you those. And these are the two main characters. Emily and Emily are the two main characters in the actual people you talk to the most in the game. And then next we have Matt. So Matt is a skater boy, and he is actually the first person. He's the person that got you to make your Facebook profile. So in this vein, he's also a very very close friend of yours. So and I would say probably your best friend in this game. And he's very outgoing. Like kind of like the mood setter of of this strange group of high schoolers. So, and then Matt is dating this other character, Kelly. Kelly is Matt's girlfriend who is very into photography. I don't know what kind of like stereotype she falls under, but like she loves taking pictures. She's probably the prettiest one in my opinion out of, they don't have faces, but the vibe I get, she's very 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 pretty. And I guess she also wants to travel a lot based on how she talks. So like she's yeah, she's but at the beginning of the game the thing you know about her is that she is Matt's girlfriend and she loves photography is actually her main thing. That's basically Kelly. And she's the one that takes all the pictures and uploads them onto Facebook for you. So she is the one that tags you and everything basically. So these are the four main characters of the game. So let's dive into what's the story like. Oops. So this is a very typical high school story, and it basically takes place in senior year. The summer it starts at the summer before senior year and ends shortly after graduation. And at the start of the game, Matt helps you. He messages you because he's the one that told you to make their Facebook profile, and he helps you build your Facebook profile. And basically, it's just him asking his girlfriend to tag pictures and asking you to write a status and things like that. And then after that, he asks you to decide which end of summer party that you want to go to. And he says there are two parties that we can go to. Emily is throwing a barbecue, and Evelyn is throwing a rager at her house. And he also mentions that things have been weird due to some kind of drama between Emily and Evelyn, but you don't know what it is yet. So then he leaves, and before he leaves, he tells you to talk to Emily and Evelyn to get more details about the party. And then at which point both of them friend you, and then you start talking to them and getting to know them better. And just like classic Facebook, you can creep on their profiles to figure out what they like or what their interests are and things like that. They have they actually have isn't a note survey. Is I guess it's kind of a note survey. They fill these out like a note survey for you to read, and then that kind of gives you some details in some surface level information about them. So then you talk to them, and then you get invited to both parties, and then at which point you need to decide which party you want to go to. And to no one's surprise, I don't consider it a spoiler, but I think it's pretty obvious. Which party you go to kind of determines which route you are going to go on, and that's basically the end of the first chapter. And then from then on, you get to basically experience high school through Facebook, and you spend the rest of the game browsing Facebook, talking to your friends, talking to other characters in the game, and there's obviously there's drama that comes up, and you need to basically help people out through the drama using on Facebook chat. So with that out of the way, now I want to get into I want to talk about like the strengths and weaknesses of the game, because there are things that this game does very well, and there are things that this game does not do very well. And so let's start with the pros. So I think the biggest draw to this game is basically the nostalgia factor, because I think that's the very first thing I said about this game. It's a Facebook simulator, right? It needs to have the nostalgia, and it does it very, very well. It faithfully recreates Facebook in 2008 and 2009, and you see all of the things that you would expect from a high schooler in that era on Facebook, like the stupid note surveys. There's like a personality quiz that matches you with your friends, and there's people are posting pictures. There's poke wars. There's everything. Like it's so well done, and I think it's basically considered art in its own. It I think it's considered art at this point, because it does it so well, and it has all the sounds, and and they also make like YouTube playlists too, and that and on another note too, the nostalgia is there because it also captures all like the weird high school stuff that people are, all the stupid high school crap that people go through, and all the meaningless drama and yeah, it captures it so well. Like it's really hard for me to put it into words, but like the feeling you get, you're just transported back to high school, and you're like, I remember this dumb shit I had to put up with back when I was in high school. And I also remember how Facebook used to be, and like filling out the about me section. I remember the first time when I logged into Facebook, it was literally the same experience. My friend asked me on AIM, "Hey, you should make a Facebook profile picture so I can share these pictures with you." He actually walked me through setting up my face. He's like, "All right, you need this," and like, "Oh, here's my friend me," and then here, and you can go through my friends list and friend all of our friends and things like that. It's so well done, and there's so much attention to detail on recreating the feeling, back, in early Facebook years, basically. So the nostalgia is definitely there, and I think it's probably the strongest point of this game. And the developer definitely got his priorities straight when he made this game by, he spent a lot of work recreating Facebook. So, in a related note, also, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this. So, you don't need to go through everyone's profiles and look at everything. But there are a lot of Easter eggs. So, one big part of the game is Emily and Evelyn. They send you a lot of music. And the developer has developed like a YouTube, except instead of spelling TUB, it's spelled TOOB. So, he has created basically 2008, 2009 YouTube, and he has linked actual YouTube videos that are the songs into it. And so when you click on the link in the game, it takes you to this external web page that the developer designed, and it has all the music. And the selection of the music that he has selected really does capture what high schoolers in the period were listening to. I recognize a lot of these songs. There's like what was it? There's Snow Patrol in there. There's actually one of the songs I listened to, one of the bands I listened to when I was in high school, Rise Against, is in there. There's just a huge selection in the game, and I'm gonna put up a spoiler tag just for this, but let me put it on. So you can get rickrolled in this game, and I absolutely love it. The rickroll was amazing. It's really hard to find, but it's in there. You absolutely can get rickrolled. That's definitely peak. That's like peak 2000s. All right, rickrolling. Oh, I love being rickrolled. I love it. All right. So definitely very very well done with selecting the soundtrack of this game. Very very well done. The next strong point of this game is the dialogue, and when I say and it's a certain aspect of the dialogue, and it's the fact that there's no forced dialogue on your side. Everything that you do in the game, all of your everything you do is you select one of three options. So every time it's your turn to respond, you get three options. You select one, and then and then your character, and then you type it out into the game, and it seems very simple, right? But it really helps with the immersion of the game. It really gets you feeling that, hey, I'm using Facebook. I'm actually talking to this person in this game. I have control over what I'm doing. And most of the options don't affect the larger story, but you do get different reactions to varying levels of degree based on what you say. And you can also kind of role play as yourself. Like when I was my first playthrough of the game, I was role playing as the high school version of my, like, how would I approach this, right? Like when I was asked which party would I go to, I'm like, all right, which girl would I actually hang? If I was a high schooler, which girl would I hang out with more, right? So obviously I was a huge nerd in high school, so obviously I'm gonna pick Emily, who's the gamer girl, right? I'm gonna pick her, right? So you can really, you can LARP as yourself, your high school version of yourself, and the dialogue really helps with the immersion of it, and that's actually a big part of the game. And finally, the last thing is the true ending, and the true ending, the narrative of it is basically if you go through the game and you get the true ending, then the flow of the narrative is very, very good. The the true ending is the final in the final scene of the true ending. It's really sweet, and it's almost as good as Emily's Way 2. Emily's Way 2, Evelyn. So in Emily is Way 2, I chose Evelyn, and oh man, like the feeling I got on her true ending in Emily's Way 2 was, you know, I felt the Doki Doki, all right. So, but I didn't exactly feel that in Emily's Way 3, but it did get me smiling a little bit. Like it's really, really sweet. It really is. And so I think on at least that true ending route, it's very, very well done. It's a very simple story. The story's pretty simple. It's your typical high school drama, but just combined with the fact that you're immersed into Facebook, it really does feel like you're talking to you're not talking to just some character. You're actually talking to someone. So I do think with the immersion and everything, it really does make it really sweet, a really, really sweet ending. So on that end, now we're gonna move on to basically the weaknesses of the game, and basically what I was, and on the vein of the true ending requirements are the true ending is really, really, I don't want to say difficult, but it's really, really annoying. So in order to discuss, I am going to turn on the spoiler tag now. So because it's I need to be able to talk about the requirements freely. So I'm going to turn on the spoiler tag. All right. So the true ending, the requirement for it is really, really ridiculous. So on your first playthrough of the game, you cannot get the true ending. It's literally impossible. In order to get the true ending, you need to make a second. There are two save slots. Presumably, when you first play it, when you're playing blind, you think, all right, the first save slot is for the first person I go for, and the second save slot is for the person that I decide. Once I finish the other person. So if I went for Emily in the first save route slot, then that means Evelyn's gonna be in the second save slot. And that's kind of the idea, that when you see the two save slots, right, like, oh, one for each character, basically. But the true ending, the requirement is whichever person you have, and not only do you need to use that the true ending is only unlocked in the second save slot, but in addition to that, the true ending that you get cannot be whichever person you went for in the first save slot. You need to use the other person in the second save slot, and only then can you get the true ending for that character. If you want to get the true ending for the first character in the first playthrough, you need to rewind the first playthrough, go for the other character and get the bad ending, and then in the second save slot you need to replay it again to get your original character's good true ending. And the worst part of it is that there is no indication that you actually need to do this. In order for you to figure it, you need to figure it out the hard way, or you look it up online. And I think that whenever you have to look up anything online, as you know, to advance in the game, it's pretty bad if you have to do that. So I didn't know that at the beginning. So I replayed Emily's route 3 or 4 times before I just gave up and looked online and then found out that, oh, hey, you need to. Not only can you not get Emily's good ending in the first slave slot, you can only get Evelyn's good ending in the second slave slot at this point. And that's just, I think that's just bad game design. I don't think you should ever force players to replay your game for such a huge amount of story, such a big plot point. I think it's just very very poor game design. I don't want to say lazy, but I just think it's just overall a poor game decision. Um, and it's okay to make your true ending really hard to get, like Persona 4's true ending. It was very very hard to get, even though you kind of knew what it was, but you need to take the exact line. But it's okay to make it really difficult to get, but you can't make it impossible. No one want you should be able to get, if you're good at the game, you should be able to get the true ending in the first game, no matter what. And I think that's just very very. I was very very. By the time I got to Emily's true ending, I was really really like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Like, Evelyn's true ending, I didn't really have any problem in my playthrough if you go through it, but Emily's I had a huge problem going with it. I eventually I had to resort to basically changing the save file in order to get it, and that it's just not an enjoyable experience. So keep that in mind if you just haven't played the game yet and you're reading through the spoilers. Make sure that wherever person you go for in the first ending, you can go blind for the first playthrough, but just know that in order to get the true ending, you need to first fail with the other girl first before I go over the. And I'm guessing maybe the whole idea of why you decided to do that was just to kind of make the true ending like a lot sweeter to get. But I think that if that's the case, then it just falls short because you're going to spend a lot of time. If you're doing it blind, you spend a lot. You might replay it and try different branches to try to get the true ending, but none of it actually matters. So I think that's the biggest gripe I have with the game. All right. So on piggybacking off of that, the second thing is the replayability of the game. And maybe replayability is the wrong word to use, but when you do replay the game, what happens is you can jump back to previous chapters and redo your decisions there, but there's no option to basically fast forward through text or dialogue. Like there's no, in a lot of visual novels I played, there's a button where you can basically fast forward through the dialogue, but in this game there's nothing like that. And for a game that if you want to see everything and you have to replay it, you need a fast forward button to basically make it more enjoyable. Or maybe like, and visual novels, they also have like skip all red text, all previously read text, and just putting something like that is also fine too. Just your players are going to replay your game, so you should give them the option to basically skip all the red text. And one thing to really help, they do have an auto type mode. Just for those of you who haven't played yet, make sure you turn it on when you're playing through the game. You don't want to be smashing your keyboard all the time. Just turn it on and it makes it a lot more easier. But still, that's not enough. When you're trying to unlock everything, it's very very hard. There's basically nothing to help you speed through the game. And on that note too, another gripe I have with the game is the shared dialogue. Now you won't notice this on your first or couple playthroughs, but Emily and Evelyn, there's a lot of shared dialogue between the two of them. So let me give you guys some examples. An example. So here I have put up on the screen. So on the left, on the left, on this side over here is Emily's route, and then on Evelyn's route, this is this one. Notice that the texts are completely identical, and both of them have named their iPod baby. Like, what are the odds of realistically? What are the odds of two? First of all, what are the odds of two people having a nickname for their iPod? Second, and on top of that, what are the odds of them having the same name, right? So this becomes very obvious when you play through both routes, and like the dialogues are very very. There is a lot of shared dialogue between Emily and Evelyn, and and in Emily's was the way to Emily and Evelyn are both very distinct characters, and in this game they are not as distinct, especially if you play through both routes, because they share a lot of dialogue. So that and it really does clash with their personality. Like some things I can imagine Emily saying, and something that I can imagine Evelyn saying, but I can't imagine the other person responding like that. But they do share the exact same dialogue. Now they don't share the same dialogue for everything. There's for key parts of the game, they have their own unique dialogue for their unique situations. But there's a lot more shared dialogue where I actually thought that, hey, the true ending, is it going to be the same exact thing? And it really, once I got Evelyn's true ending, I'm like, is it really worth it to play for Emily's, because it's going to be the same thing? And yeah, so they do share a lot of dialogue. And on another note too, a lot the storylines between the two of them are not very unique. They're basically this. The story is basically the same. All the main plot points between the two routes are very similar. I kind of wish that the developer decided to make each route kind of more unique, because in Emily's Way too, the it is pretty unique between the two of them. Like they have different issues that they are dealing with. So, and like kind of an example that both storylines are kind of the same is that in chapter 1, in the very first chapter, you find out that you need to basically run interference between, for Evelyn, it's a character, it's her ex, and in Emily's route is a guy who has a crush on her, and you need to run interference, and because both of them didn't want to invite this troublesome third person to the party, but they ended up doing so, and you need to basically get in the way of them. Like that was your whole idea. And I felt like it was a little forced. Like for Evelyn's, it made the most sense, running interference on your ex, but then shoehorning a character for Emily's for Emily, like a guy that has a crush on you. Like, do you really need to run interference on a guy like that? Like, I just feel like it was kind of forced. So there's a lot of shared plot points between the two stories, but some of them I feel like because they're shared, it also feels forced when it doesn't really need to be there. So that's one gripe. Another gripe I had with the two storylines, like they just weren't unique enough, and I think that really hurts the characters, because you end up feeling, oh, these characters are actually they're basically the same, when in reality they actually are not. All right, and then finally the last gripe that I have. This one is also a spoiler, so it's a narrative disconnect at a certain point in the game. So I'm going to turn on the spoiler tag for this entire one. So going back to the bad and the true and the true ending and the good ending, I guess I keep calling it the true ending. It might not be the true. Maybe it's just better to call it the good ending. Going back to those, like the good ending is locked, right? There are requirements for it, and when you get the bad ending, there's just such a huge narrative disconnect between chapter 4 and chapter 5. In chapter 4, the person that you're dating is says, "Oh, I love you so much," blah 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 blah. Oh, like I can't believe that you're my boyfriend. And then all of a sudden in chapter 5, if you get the bad ending, you're like, "Oh, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. We should see other people." It's like, wait, what just happened? Like like we were going to go to prom together, and then now 1 month later you feel like this, and you were such in love with me, and then now like okay, I get it, they're high schoolers, I get it, but you know, as the person playing the game, right? You're like, dude, like prom 1 month ago was 5 minutes ago for me, right? So there's such a huge narrative disconnect. Like, okay, I can understand it happens in real life, but you need to write your story better to reflect that, in my opinion. Like chapter 4, what they should have done for the writing is, you know, hint at some distance between you and your girlfriend. You need to hint at some distance so that when you do get the bad ending, it makes sense, where they're like, oh, like we should, I'm not in love with you anymore. We should, the honeymoon phase is over. We should see other people, right? Then it makes sense. Or, and then if you get the good ending, then the the your girlfriend can be like, oh hey, like like there was a time when I doubted us, but then it actually made me realize how much I love you. And then it actually is it's character development, right? Like it like if you're gonna have branching paths, right? Like a bad ending and a good ending, then you need to make sure that the narrative flows in both paths. If it doesn't flow in both paths, if it flows for one path, which is why I said the true ending was really really sweet because it completely flowed, but and then it doesn't flow for the other path, then it's a broken storyline, and it makes the bad ending even worse because you're like, what the hell just happened? Maybe that's what the developer was going for, but I don't think that just really leaves a bad taste in my mouth, in my opinion. I really did not enjoy it at all. And yeah, it shouldn't have been done like that, in my opinion. All right, so that ends, discussions of the strengths and weaknesses of the game. So overall the oops. So overall, the strengths do override the weaknesses because the weaknesses that I have with the game are they're very like targeted gripes I have with the game. Like overall, the experience, especially your first playthrough, is very very nice. It's very very fun, very very nostalgic, and this it's a Facebook simulator, and it really does take you back. And it's a very unique experience. You are not going to find another experience like this in any other game, in any other media. This is a very unique experience. And if you really want that feeling of being transported back to your high school years, and especially if you grew up, if you went to high school between 2000 and 2010, if you grew up any time in that time, this game is for you. You will feel the nostalgia. People that were probably born on in the 2010s or in the 1990s and went to high school in those eras might not feel the complete nostalgia, but definitely for people that went to high school in between 2000 and 2010, definitely you'll get the nostalgia out of it. And so for that reason, because it's such a unique experience, despite the flaws in the game, my final rating for this is going to be 8 out of 10. So definitely get it. Try it. I actually really like AIM a lot more, so I really like the first two games a lot more because Facebook doesn't have the same nostalgia that AIM does have for me. And comparing this game with number two, and I think Emily's the Way 2 is the superior game because there's just so much more nostalgia, especially for me. But if you went to high school, because I literally got my Facebook my senior year of high school. But I feel like if you had Facebook for most of your high school career and your friends were on it, then maybe this might be a bigger hit of nostalgia for you. So overall, you know, I'd say if you got $10 to spare and you want to have a unique experience, I would definitely get this game. Just make sure after you finish your first word of advice, just after you finish your first playthrough, you should read on how to get the true ending because I don't want you wasting your time like I did. So, anyways, once again, this is Blitzing Def. Thank you for watching this review. Is Emily's the Way 3. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, please please hit that subscribe button. And I've got more games that I plan on playing, and I hope you get a chance to watch me play through them. So until then, talk to you later. Bye.